Guess I'm on a mission to see how many of the Vox Machina PCs I can use in thumbnails and get away with it. But the question remains, what is the Gunslinger? Well, in 5e, it's a fighter subclass, but not any that you'll find in a book. This is D&D Beyond only, and is categorized as Critical Role content, which means it's not official and technically third party. So for that aspect alone of it being more third party, definitely consult your dungeon master before just deciding you're going to play a gunslinger. On top of the fact that, well, we kind of have to address this, firearms in D&D and fantasy can be considered a contentious topic. Personally, I find the argument really dumb. Ultimately, my line of thought is if it serves your world and your narrative and the DM gave the approval, who cares? It's the Dungeon Master's game, it's the Dungeon Master's world. Who cares if they allow firearms in their game? If you don't want it, you can just say no. Simple as that. The subclass itself is fairly straightforward. Right out of the gate, you get proficiency with firearms. The nice part is the subclass does explain firearm rules and terms, so you won't have to dig for them. Effectively, you can take one action to reload a weapon when it's time to reload. So something labeled as reload 1, you can fire once and then reload. If you have extra attack provided as a fighter or another class, then you can use one of those attacks to reload. There is also a misfire chance, where if you roll a specific number stated, your weapon jams. From there, you're going to be interacting with the class's main feature, trick shots and grit points. A good comparison for this is actually Font of Magic with the sorcerer and the sorcery points. They function nearly identically. You gain a number of grit points equal to your wisdom modifier. Spending this will allow you to do trick shots to do any number of things, from battlefield control, forcing movement, hitting more targets, dealing more damage, and making it easier to hit your targets. And the similarities between metamagic and trick shots don't end there. You can only do one trick shot per attack. However, this means you can still do multiple in a single turn or round as long as you have means of firing multiple times. So if you're playing a rogue gunslinger, you can spend a grit point to do Deadeye to give yourself advantage. As a result, sneak attack, assuming you don't have disadvantage on the roll. Then the next attack, use Disarming Shot to cause an enemy to drop something they're holding if they fail to save. Regarding that, it should be noted that if a DC is attached to any trick shot, it is 8 plus proficiency plus dexterity modifier. You gain 2 trick shots at 3rd level, then another basically with every new subclass feature. You can regain these points as follows: on a short or long rest, when you roll a natural 20 on attack, or deal a killing blow. So there are multiple avenues in which you can get these points back, so don't feel shy about using them. And here's level 3 and beyond. At level 7, you gain Quick Draw, which allows you to add your proficiency bonus to Initiative. Combine this with Alert and the Ranger Gloomstalker's Wisdom bonus to Initiative, and you'll have a monster on your hands. Level 10 is Rapid Repair. You can spend a grit point to repair your weapon as a bonus action as long as it is not broken. Level 15 is Lightning Reload. You can reload your weapon as a bonus action. And rounding everything out at level 18 is Vicious Intent, which allows you to crit on a 19 or 20 and then hemorrhaging critical. When the target is struck by a critical, they suffer half the damage from that attack at the end of its next turn. So deal 60 damage. Well, at the end of the target's next turn, they'll take an additional 30, so that one attack technically dealt 90. That's the Gunslinger. It is a fairly strong fighter archetype, one that I would, again, talk to your dungeon master to see if they'll allow it in their games, and maybe see if they'll want to tweak specific elements. But overall, it's an archetype that I personally really enjoy and think is a lot of fun. It's also a potentially very interesting way to, well, have the player and Dungeon Master work together to tell the story of the world and almost how it's advancing in technology. Maybe this player is one of the ones to invent a very early rendition of a firearm just to reflect the character's intelligence. But the big thing there is that it allows the players to feel as though they are helping tell the story of the world in a way that you normally wouldn't even think about. It's ultimately what I really like about Percy's story. It wasn't just him to invent the weapon. Rather, the designs were given to him via Orthax, and it was through a combination of the PC's intelligence as well as the pact that resulted in the firearm to be made, which would have ripple effects not only on the campaign, but also further adventures. Despite all of that though, firearms are currently an optional rule in the DMG. So because of that, a lot of class features don't necessarily gel well with it, or even accommodate completely. As a result, there is a lot of DM may I conversations when playing the Gunslinger. That is until Tasha's, when we got the Gunner feat, where it basically allows you to ignore the reload property of a firearm, which effectively makes lightning reload on the Gunslinger kind of pointless if you take this feat, which, I mean, why wouldn't you? Bake that into your character's story, become a human, take the feat, and explain how you can use guns before going into Gunslinger. However, at the time of the subclass's release on D&D Beyond, this ability made a lot of sense. Now, with all that, I was curious to see if the Gunslinger could be somewhat easily converted over to One D&D. Currently for the fighter, the most recent update we have is Playtest Packet 7 at the time of recording. Taking a look at it, it does look like the subclass progression mirrors 5th edition exactly. Now, with that, there's probably going to have to be some tweaks involved to begin with, which just naturally happens. However, it is indeed possible to take the Gunslinger and still use it in One D&D. Yeah, screw it, that sounds a lot of fun.